Have you seen those talking buttons that dogs are using? I taught both my dogs how to use them, and I used slightly different methods, so today I'm sharing how I taught each one to use buttons to talk to me. Before we get started into the differences between the two methods, I do just want to emphasize you should be talking to your dog all the time. Yes, I did say talking to your dog, and no, I'm not crazy. If you want your dog to be able to communicate with you, they have to have a foundation for what communication even is. They have to get used to hearing you communicate with them. Not just talking to them, a blue streak, blah, 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 actually trying to communicate with them. The first method, and the one that Christina Hunger talks about most in her book, is modeling. Modeling means you are using the buttons naturally in conversation with your dog. Starsky, are you hungry? Hungry.
Hungry?
He just looked up, sat up, and looked around because he was like, where's my food? No, hungry. Oops. Oops. Basically, the principle is that you want your dog to see you using the buttons and then figure out that they too can use the buttons to communicate those same ideas. This is a pretty passive way to teach a dog how to use the buttons, but it is the most natural way. However, it doesn't have to be entirely passive. There's a couple of different activities you can do. You can have a short modeling session. So for example, before you go outside, press it 3 or 4 times and repeat the word verbally and then go outside so that they really start to pick up on the connection. This button says outside. Outside means this. When I hear the word outside, we go outside. Oh, I can press the button and then I can go outside. Another activity you can do is you can make it hard for them. Now, you should not be depriving your dog of anything. If your dog has to go outside and genuinely cannot figure out the button, take your dog outside. However, if your dog is kind of close to figuring it out and seems to associate the button with the action but just hasn't figured out how to press it yet, try giving them an opportunity to press it themselves. By that, I mean, if your dog is standing by the door waiting for you to take him outside, you wait 15 or 20 seconds, see if he can figure out that he presses the button, and then as soon as he presses the button, you throw a party. Yes, let's go outside, way to go, good job, outside, outside, woohoo! You want your dog to realize, wow, this is so exciting, and this is the way mom wants me to communicate with her. Modeling is the best method to start with, and the reason for that is it is the most natural way to learn communication. Think about human babies. They learn to speak by watching adults around them speak and listening, as well as picking up on the patterns that happen when adults say certain words. That is modeling. And this does not just apply to humans, right? While other animals don't have language in the same sense that we do, they do have ways to communicate with each other. How do their young learn to communicate? They watch the older animals. Modeling is also great for your dog's problem-solving skills, so it works their brain too. Definitely start with this method if you want to teach your dog to talk. Method 2 is the training method. This is less preferred, but you can still use it within the context of modeling for dogs that maybe aren't figuring it out just by looking at you do it. This is exactly what it sounds like. You are literally training your dog to press the button. This is a much more active and less natural way to train your dog to talk, but it's still very effective for dogs that maybe are just having a little trouble figuring it out. Because the training method is less natural than the pure modeling method, I would suggest holding off on this method until you've realized that your dog really is not picking up on the connections between the buttons and the actions and really has not realized that they too can press the buttons to make their needs known. I think I started actively using the training method about 2 months in with Ginsburg. How to do it. It's not hard. I literally trained Ginsburg to press the button. I started by teaching her a target command. Target meant hit my hand with your paw. And I did that using a clicker and just clicking and treating when she accidentally hit my hand with her paw. It only took maybe 3 or 4 times of that for her to figure out, oh, if I hit mom's hand, I get a click and a treat. After that, I started placing my hand over the button and having her target my hand. And then when she targeted my hand, it set off the button and she heard the button. Then I did step 3. I put my hand behind the button so that when she would target my hand, hopefully her paw would slip and she would hit the button and set it off. I don't know for sure that you need that step. I'm just telling you what I did. Once she had figured that out, I put my hand under the button and told her to target and she would hit the button while trying to hit my hand. Once I'd gone through all these steps, she had pretty much figured out, oh, I can hit the button too. This whole process took maybe a week. Didn't take that long. Throughout this process, I was still modeling. This is so important. You always want to be modeling because that is the natural way to use language. Hopefully that will help your dog generalize that each button means different things and that the button buttons as a whole are a communication tool, not just, oh, I press this specific button for a party trick. You also want to still be giving them opportunities to use the buttons. If anything, giving them opportunities to use the buttons and kind of making it hard for them is more important with this method than with the pure modeling method. Because they are having some issues putting that connection together that they can set off the buttons, you need to teach them how to problem solve that they can set off the buttons for what they want. And this is exactly what worked for Ginsburg for outside. Once she had figured out how to press it, because I had been targeting it, she started standing by the door and waiting for me to press it, and I just kind of waited her out for 10, 20 seconds. One night, she figured it out. She pressed it, and I made a huge deal of it. Again, throw a metaphorical training party for your dog. Woohoo! You pressed outside! Let's go outside! And again, if anything, this is more important in the training method than in the pure modeling method, because your dog really needs that reinforcement to help them problem solve that they can also set off the buttons. Some final considerations. No matter which method you use, you need to continue to model. You want them to get used to the idea of communicating with each other via the buttons. And because it's the most natural, it's also the most sustainable method. Training a dog to press every single button really isn't that sustainable, and it's not that natural for communicating with each other. You want your dog to generalize that the buttons are for communication, not just this button is a trick, this button is a trick. I will always suggest modeling first. Try to avoid the more active training method unless your dog really needs that to figure out how to communicate with you. You can learn more about how to start by reading Christina Hunger's new book, When Stella Learned to Talk, and as soon as I finish it, I will give you a book review video all about it. So far though, I am loving it. I also recommend starting with the Fluent Pet buttons because they are by far the highest quality buttons I have tried, and the Hextile organization is great for language learning. I will include links to both of these resources in the description box below. Talk to me. Have you tried this with your dog? Which method did you use? How well did it work? I want to know everything. Make sure to subscribe for more talking dog content, and I'll see you next video. Bye! Look at that waggy tail.